Hello, welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and another edition of What is in Our Stand Today. This is part two of a video that we took of part one that we took on a Cervelo P3 that came into us for service. And he had a couple of issues, little nagging issues. One was excessive brake noise, and the other was the power meter wasn't working right. But we took it a step further and we did a little bit of a cleaning on the bike, and we're just not going to charge the customer because we want to provide a little bit more than the customer expects of us. So let's take a quick look at the finished portion of this service. Okay. What we have is the P3 that I just mentioned to you. And the main reason he came in was because his rear brakes were making a lot of noise. And it turns out that his brake pads were so worn that it was the brake cartridge here, the shoe, or the brake pad holder. There's many different names, but basically that function of holding the pad to the caliper. The pad was worn down so much it was actually, you can see it's created a little bit of a groove here and damaged a couple of his stickers, but we got that squared away. I inspected the rim and it's good. Now because the bike was already here, I decided to clean up the rest of the drivetrain. So now if you go back to video 1, you'll see how dirty that drivetrain was. We cleaned the pulleys on it. This is a good customer, so we want to take care of him and want him to keep coming back to us. And then he has a 4i power meter, and basically just the battery was dead, and so we replaced the battery and everything is working just fine. And just to give you the example to show you, this is what the brake pad looked like that was in there, and it was completely worn down, and you can see that there. And I've got a still shot of the difference between a good pad and a worn pad, and it's a 10 millimeter pad, so 1 centimeter, and this is I believe it was just a little bit over 4 millimeters left. But that's just what's left inside the brake pad holder. So basically that's why that noise that he was hearing, it was basically the metal of the brake pad holder that was scraping against the rim. These are the front ones, and so there's a teaching moment here as well. You'll notice this is cleaned up, and it's because I wanted to see what the logos were so I could provide the correct brake pads for them. But the teaching moment here, and for the viewing public and for this triathlete, is that his front brake pads are not as worn as his rear brake pads. And, you know, it is one of these things that's kind of stuck with us when we were young kids, that if we use the front brake pads, we're going to do an endo and we're going to crash. So that transfers over to our adult life on high performance machines, and we continue to use the rear brakes more than the front. And I'm here to tell you that you really should try and slowly but surely experiment with it, but you really should try to use your front brake more than your rear brake. 70% of your stopping power comes from your front brake, and because we're so used to what used to happen to us when we were kids, that we would do an endo, and you have to look at our weight distribution on the bike. When we were little, the bike was really little. We were kind of just sitting way up on top of it, and if we hit the brakes, front brake, then we would go up and over. On a adult size bike, we are our weight distribution is much more equal. And if you're on a road bike, it's more 60% to the rear and 40% to the front if you've got a good bike fit. And by good bike fit, I mean your hands and shoulders and neck aren't hurting because you've got too much pressure on your hands. But you should be using your front brake pads, your front brake for most of the braking power, and then just kind of balance it out with your rear brake. And you'll have a lot more stopping power, and you can come to a safe stop much more effectively if you apply the front brake more than the rear brake. So that's all for now, and I will have a little discussion with him and just kind of ask him what he uses as a braking method or tactic, and then if there's an opportunity to have him try the front brake first and then slowly apply the rear brake. And that's how most of us do it in the performance world, just so we can get the best braking power out of our machines. Okay, so sorry for the long-winded discussion, but as always, I try to add a little bit of something other than just showing you a bike repair, and I like to impart a little bit of training, a little bit of knowledge along the way. I appreciate everyone who checks out the videos. Please subscribe and hit that little notification arrow so that you know when there's another video that I have posted. And please tell your friends, and we look forward to seeing you on the road.